little space, and then I will introduce a little bit about my practice as a whole and also research a little bit. So first of all, my project is this Oracle of Poetic Scape, and you've seen these different drawings, but as a whole, it's a project called Oracle of Poetic Scape, which is this booklet, and this booklet includes 22 drawings made by a calligraphy drawing, if you know, and together with the poems that is both in English and Japanese. And basically, they are inspired by traditional tarot structure. If you know, tarot is this kind of a card game that has all symbols and archetypes. So I was inspired by this structure, but also especially this essence from each archetypes in Major Arcana. And Major Arcana has this 22 different things. So that's the core inspiration for my work. And the so So this book has a little bit strange structure. So when you see the book, usually you go through like this way, and then you see all the drawings and text. But because I was inspired by this tarot structure, and also my intention of creating this project was that not only sharing my personal interpretation of this each archetypes in tarot, but also I wanted to incorporate my original method called poetic thinking as an alternative healing method. And I've been running a physical workshop face to face throughout some years. But I started to find there is a limit when I need some physical workshop to deliver my method. So I started to think how I can share it more, like how I can make this method accessibly. So that's the point. I started to find tarot structure inspiring. So I wanted to integrate that aspect into my book. So how to use this book is basically you can break it down, and then so this is a cover, but you can take it away. And then, of course, if you want, you can follow the order and you can read it as a one story. But what's really my point is, in my poetic thinking, it it invites the practitioners to deconstruct this traumatic narrative, which I personally feel as a frozen narrative, and I believe in this poetic thinking as a way to deconstruct and defrost this traumatic narrative and then recreate your another kind of perspective, another narrative with it. So it doesn't matter. So basically, because of this part of my project, what I wanted to share with this is that you can even mix it up and then pick only one to read, or you can make another order, etc. So with that, I was hoping to share this way of recreating your own narrative by using these little essences. So that's why this book has a different, a little bit strange structure. So that's really about this thing. And also I want to introduce a little bit about why I put the original drawings as well. So in the process of creating this project, I was doing this little practice with, yeah, I think you saw this picture, but I was playing with this A1 big paper and trying to somehow just intuitively pick symbols that I created and mix them up and what's gonna come out. I was just like playing with it, and then I started to see, like, for instance, this is a final symbol for actually Empress, if you know tarot card. But then by playing with, like, in a way, deconstructing the story of Empress and reconstructing another narrative with other symbols, I started to see, like, different movement from this shape. So not even by uh, creating another composition, but I was experiencing another layer of narrative within one symbol. So this type of activity was quite interesting for me to experience by myself unexpectedly. So that was also inspiration that I ended up like this kind of mixing up booklet style. And in the process, I was hoping at some point to share this A1 drawing as part of the show. But then, to be honest, I was envisioning too much. So then I stepped back, and then I was just looking through the original drawings. And then I found, I can show you later if you have a time, but some of the drawing, uh, in the process of making some of the drawing, I was already playing that type of like experiencing a little bit expanded narrative from one symbol. And I thought by sharing these little drawings, I thought I can also share this type of approach, which is not necessarily stick with the defined meaning of one symbol. I lost the sentence. But rather, even you can play with the meaning of the symbol, because personally, after some years of experiencing traditional tarot, yes, it is helpful, and yes, it itself is a healing tool. But then I felt a little bit of limitation and a little bit of stuckness, because they have a very specific defined meaning for the card, and when you have the card, you already know what it means. But then I wanted to, like, simply, I didn't feel free enough. So then I started to think, okay, how I can have this more open possibility that I can feel with this poetic thinking. So that's kind of the process that I was going through. And yeah, I think that's basically it about the project itself. But then I wanted to also share my my practice in general. Um, so this is the work that I created in my MA graduation, 2019, and it was a poetry installation. And the poetry is also made by myself, but then I wanted to share in a way that I can more physically share with others how poetry, and especially the process of creating poetry, really physically heals me. And that's why I ended up, in a way, translating this poem into more perceptually experienceable, in a way, in the end. And yeah, so this project was quite a starting point for me to really think about and dive deep into what's this poetic thinking, and what is this healing power of poetic thinking, what that I was experiencing. So it was kind of starting point. So yeah, I thought it would be nice to just share with you. Yeah, so this was just a little capture of the installation. And what was really nice is that you would sit a little into, Um, so because I mentioned quickly that what I really see value in this poetic thinking in terms of healing is that it has this power of really deconstructing one narrative and recreate another narrative. I really like throughout the day, you really see different narratives coming up because of the sunlight or because of even the car passing by. So that was in a way like happy accident, but I really liked it. So that's that. And then there are some just two things that I also wanted to share. It's not my practice, but because I also do quite academic research in terms of this poetic thinking and art education, etc. Research and process is quite important to me. That's why I wanted to share some very strong inspiration that I got from Portuguese artists and also researchers that I met in here. So one of the artists, well, one artist very strongly inspired. His name is Daniel Melim, and he's a painter. And yes, his painting is beautiful, but when I saw his performance, because he also does his performance including his paintings, and the way he delivers his words and his voice, he doesn't necessarily call him as a poet, but the way he delivers his words was really touching. And I even feel touching is really such a superficial word, but it really moved me. And I even cried, and I didn't know what was happening. And yeah, he has a different type of performance. So if you're interested, you can Google him. But then after that day, I went to a fado, like really traditional, authentic fado in Alfama. And when I went there, I felt this very similar thing. And yes, they are singing with the lyrics, but there was something that was really like physically coming through into my body, and that was really making sense with what I was felt for his work. And of course, not everyone is a fado singer, but then I really felt this very I don't like generalization, but it's something that I really felt from Portuguese and Portuguese culture, this specific capability almost of um, this way of connecting with words and the way that you really deliver almost this somatic. Somatic is a word about this body, and I use words somatic thinking in my research a lot because what I do in this my poetic thinking is really dissolving this mind through our body. So that's why I use this somatic as a word a lot. But that's what I really felt through Fado and also the way the Portuguese really feel the word. And these things really inspired me, and that also actually really pushed me into very uncomfortable. How do I say it? It helped me to step into this out of comfort zone in Portuguese. And what happened last month is that I performed my poetry as a very first time in my life. And I've never called to do it because before I thought if I read my poem, it's too much me. And I didn't like it. But somehow this culture and energy in Lisbon or Portugal really pushed me into that space just to try out and how I would feel. And that's a huge part of my stay in Zaratan and Lisbon and Portugal. And yeah, it's even making me really emotional right now. So it really kind of nurtured me as a whole. as an artist or as a practice as a whole. So that's something I can't take out from my presentation. So that's why I included. And another one, so after the Fado experience, I looked up what is this somatic perceptual feeling that I was feeling, and I was just googling about with the words, and I found this a beautiful academic research. It's by, she's not Portuguese, she's Greek originally, and she did her PhD in, I think, in London. So she's like up there and here, but she's been doing this research in Lisbon, and she's been here for, I think, almost 10 years or something. Because she's on holiday, I couldn't make it to meet her, but her paper was also kind of really gave me, um, she gave a perspective to reconsider what am I offering through my poetic thinking and poetic healing and all that, especially in the workshop space, because she talks about what is somatically, bodily happening in the paddle place. So that's also gave me a nice perspective. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share today. I hope it made sense. And if you have any questions or anything like that.
No questions, just doing your work. Then I will ask something because I'm not that familiar with the concept of poetic thinking. I don't know if it's something that you coined yourself or if it's something that is circulating around but I didn't come across it yet. But I was wondering if you could explain a little bit in more detail.
Yeah, maybe for that I have one quote that I really want to share. So yes, poetic thinking is not really a thing in general, but I'm sure there are lots of people who are doing it, but not necessarily making it a word, making it as a word or anything. That's why I'm kind of diving deep into that as a research as well. What else? I don't know what it's called. So I don't think I can show it right now, but there is a Italian theorist called Franco Berardi, and he is a theorist, and he talks in a quite political way, but he believed in this way of poetical act as a way to really get out of this linguistic defined perspective. Um, and he also thinks that that way of approaching what's happening outside of yourself as a way to kind of, in a way, heal from social anxiety and social depression, etc., etc. So um, there is this theorist, for example, who talks about what is poetic and what is the possibility of the poetic, but not necessarily poetic thinking. And he was kind of a big inspiration for me to start to think, so how can we do it? I know that poetical act, poeticness could be something, but how? So that was my kind of question, my personal question. That's why I said to, first of all, just try out with myself. So I said to write down my poetry, and through that, I started to kind of started to figure out how it could be done. And then I started to discover this word poetic thinking, if that makes sense. I'm sorry I can't give you a full explanation, but
Makes sense. Thank you. Yeah.
thank you again.
Thank you.